Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the Cash Bar. This is a place you can call your own. Have a conversation on the telephone. Wake up every day. That would be a start. You can complain about your wounded heart. I was upset, you see, Dianne, almost all the time. You used to be a stranger, but now you're in the Cash Bar. How you doing? I worked all morning on that.
What is the name of that New Order song?
That is Regret.
That is
That's
Regret.
yes, that is Regret by New Order, which might be it's you can't pick a favorite New Order song. It's not right.
Temptation is a big one for me.
I absolutely love Temptation. I love Temptation. I love Regret. I love Age of Consent.
Yeah.
Bizarre Love Triangle is a much better song than I think people take it for.
Yeah.
Like, it's been covered so many times. It's like it's been done to death. It's sort of on my list of that's a song that nobody ever needs to listen to again. But I listened to it again this week and no, that's a fantastic tune. It's
Yeah.
just a wonderful, wonderful song.
It always surprises me that Bizarre Love Triangle isn't considered more famous than Blue Monday, but after digging into Blue Monday this week, we know exactly why Blue Monday was the biggest hit.
Yeah. And of course we are doing Blue Monday today. We're gonna hit the dance floor, man.
Oh man, I'm so excited. This song, it came out in 1983. So if you went to a legit dance club in all of the 80s, all of the 90s, all the way to today, 2021, if I went to Numbers and played this song, no one sits it out. This is not the song that people just continue their drink and don't go to the dance floor. This is a song that's like, well, I gotta go do this. Like, everyone dances to this song, and DJs know it. They know if they got to get the flow of the night where people have left the dance floor, if they play this song, the crowd comes back. It's just that song.
It's the bounce back song. So it's literally they're playing our song. No, not you and I, everyone.
Yes. All of
Let's
the world
go do
song.
it. Everybody knows the opening words to this song, so let's just do it. How does it feel to treat me like you do when you've laid your hands upon me and told me who you are? Dramatic.
What do you think of?
I think of this song. I can't decide how I feel about it because it goes in so many different directions, and each one is equally justified in my head. Like, it's the lyrics are wonderful because they're perfectly balanced for however you want to interpret it.
Exactly.
Whatever mood you're in, whatever direction you want to go with. Like, this works for meeting somebody on the dance floor. I like the way she looks. I like the way she moves. I'd like to go introduce myself. How does it feel to treat me like you do? Because it's the perfect, that's what dancing is. Like, when you're dancing with somebody, you're physically like showing them, like, this is how I want to treat you, or this is how you make me feel. Like, it's obviously, it's why we do it romantically. But this song also has, like, is it that like is it a new relationship? Is it a very old relationship that's coming to a head? Is it a loving relationship? Is it an abusive relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Is it doesn't even necessarily have to be a sexual or romantic relationship, whether good or bad. This could be a straight up, like, it's almost violence. This could certainly feel like a school kid talking to a bully. It could be like it's an oppressor talking to the oppressed, or the other way around. Like, it just goes in any direction.
Yeah. So for the listener, say you are of a strange age where you don't know this song, I'll say that songfacts.com says the song is believed to be either about drug addiction, that's one way of looking at it, child abuse, or a failed relationship. The line, how does it feel to treat me like you do, could refer to either the drugs or a partner. And it says Bernard Sumner said, okay, so this is what Songfacts says. I have not come across this anywhere else in my research, so take this with a grain of salt. Songfacts says that Bernard Sumner said he and the rest of the band were under the influence of LSD while making this song. So that's one reason why the lyrics could be seen to kind of just be all over the place and kind of vague and almost dreamlike, like, because it is. So just have that in your mind. I'm not saying that's the truth, but let's keep going and see where we go with it.
I thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me now, how do I feel? I really like that part. I've always liked that part of the song where it's like this, like, you your emotions aren't necessarily yours. You know, they're you generate them, but they can be manipulated by others. They can be enhanced by others. They can be brought, like the idea of just nakedly going to a lover or somebody you trust in any way, just going, how do I feel? Like, not how do you feel, how do I feel? I thought was a really exciting idea. Like, how are you planning to make me feel today?
Yeah, there's one way of looking at this song where he's talking to someone who is controlling over him. Like someone who maybe is physically abusive. You've laid your hands upon me and told me who you are. Like, you know who I am, you're gonna do what I say. And then he's the victim, like, tell me, like, how do you want me to be?
Yeah,
that's one
I
way
think that's
of
the way
looking at
most
it.
people think of it, because you think of New Order and you know and Joy Division as kind of like gloomy Gus's and sad goth kids.
Yeah.
But if you strip away that identity or that association that you have with them, then the words have a new meaning. Like, I thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me, how do I feel? There's nothing violent about that. It's
No.
only like the implication of the music or the implication of their reputation. Like, it could be a very loving thing, especially like when you've laid your hands upon me and told me who you are. That sounds like, my first gut instinct is that sounds violent, but it's not. That could also be very, very romantic.
It could be a
That's,
loving caress, not a slap,
yeah. And that, I mean, not to be too graphic and overtly sexual, but that's sort of what you're doing when you're making love. Like, you've laid your hands upon me and told me who you are.
Yeah.
That's yikes. The third verse: those who came before me lived through their vocations. From the past until completion, they will turn away no more. This one is really like an interesting line to me, because I really think that as they were making Blue Monday, and we'll talk about everything that they went through while they were doing it, this line, after I'd done the research, kind of took on a different meaning to me, because it sort of felt like it might be kind of like a cocky pronouncement that the band was making, when they were saying, like, no, we've really got something special here. Like, everybody that came before us, just lived through was just doing their job from the past until completion. They'll turn away no more. It was almost like they're saying, like this is going to last forever. Like, they knew it.
It's like they knew it. Yeah, I don't know if they had the foresight while making this to know how big this was going to be. But we'll talk about it later, how many different songs they sampled from to get Blue Monday. I will say, I also have I have a couple misheard song lyrics through here. So when he says lived through their vocations, I thought he said lived through bad locations. I thought he was saying those who came before me lived through bad locations. And I don't know.
One.
I guess I thought he was saying they had bad experiences as well in this relationship. Yeah. That's how it made sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, because your way of interpreting it keeps the song literally the way it should be in your head. Those who came before me lived through bad locations, or came up through bad times. This one is just totally different. Like, it's jarring, because this is the only lyric in the song that isn't about the relationship between the two people.
Right.
Like, it's the only thing that references other people or other characters,
right.
Which makes it feel kind of disjointed and out of place. Like is he talking about previous lovers? Is he talking about previous lovers he's had or his lover has had? And those who came before me lived through their vocations. Like, they just did their job. So is he saying that what is he saying? Like, what is he doing differently? Like, he's obviously not living through his job. So what is he living through? From the past until completion, they'll turn away no more. They'll turn away from him no more, or they'll turn away from the relationship no more. It's just kind of confusing. Like, that one really just kind of, like, I don't know what to do with it. It doesn't seem to fit, but that's the only thing that, so let's move on, because I could make no sense of it.
Go.
And I still find it so hard to say what I need to say, but I'm quite sure that you'll tell me just how I should feel today. So that's where it gets a little bit more menacing, but I'm quite sure there's obviously something sarcastic in the I'm quite sure. Like, if it wasn't for that one word, that's what's so fun about poetry lyrics. It's just that one syllable changes everything.
You can hear the snark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you'll tell me just how I should feel today. That could be like confident. Like, you wake up in the morning and she's not quite awake yet, but you look at her like, hopefully, just like, well, when she rises, we'll figure out what we're doing today. Like, it could be a very nice thing, but you throw that quite in there and you realize just like, he's hoping she stays asleep. It's a bad day. I see a ship in the harbor and I can and shall obey. But if it wasn't for your misfortunes, I'd be a heavenly person today. Do you want to get dark now or later?
Okay, before we get dark, I'll say this is my
Mhm.
second and last misheard song lyric. He says, I can and shall obey, which is such an important lyric that I did not understand. I heard, I see a ship in the harbor, I can a shall obey, which I thought was just a poetic way of being descriptive. He sees a ship in the harbor and it's in a shallow bay.
Yeah,
I didn't put any thought to it. And when I read the lyric, I can and shall obey, I'm like, oh God, that just goes more with this idea of he's possibly dealing with someone who's controlling over him.
for sure. Yeah, no, that's definitely the way that I would take that. I again, I like your version better. It's the good. Because it would still leave it open. Like the ship in the harbor, what does that represent? An escape? Is that ship coming in? Is that ship going out? If it's on a shallow bay, then it just adds another layer
You
of
can
poetry
swim
to
to it. It's accessible. Yeah.
it. It doesn't have a particularly deep draft, so if it's coming in, whatever it's coming or going with, it can't be very much.
Yeah.
It's sorry, that's some nautical fun for you.
Yeah. So let's
Uh,
get into the darkness. If it wasn't for your misfortune, I'd be a heavenly person today.
I
What's the
wasn't
misfortune?
aware of the way that New Order's creative process until I started researching them this week. And apparently, what they do lyrically, and I'd never really like looked at the backs of their albums, but they don't credit one another on their albums. So like it doesn't necessarily say what each group member is doing, and sometimes it doesn't even have their names on it. So apparently, the way they write their lyrics is almost like a writer's room on a sitcom, where they take the finished script and they go through it line by line and just like, can anybody beat that line? Can anybody beat this
Ah,
line? Can anybody beat? So they would just go like around the room, just basically um, composing the lyrics to the song. So there's no one lyricist to New Order. I think Bernard Sumner is thought of as the lead lyricist, but he's by no means the only one.
okay.
So there's a real fan theory out there, and let's get spooky because we are talking about goth kids here. That as they were sitting around writing the lyrics for Blue Monday, it was almost like a seance. And as they went line by line, they conjured the spirit of their lost friend, Ian Curtis. And this is sort of his last waltz.
Like hit
This is Ian Curtis speaking out through them about his relationship.
right.
So he says, but if it wasn't for your misfortunes, I'd be a heavenly person today. The implication being that Ian Curtis has passed and is serving his time with the devil
In a
beneath the sea.
in a
Mhm.
darker place. Yes.
Yes, in shall we say a darker place. Now, do I believe that? No, I don't.
I don't
It's
either.
fun to think about.
I don't either, only because, and who knows, but later on, it's somewhere in my paperwork that they said specifically that the song is not about Ian Curtis. He wanted it to be vague. Um, we'll come back to that in a little bit. We'll come back to the title Blue Monday, because there's two different stories on how they got into the title, because the words Blue Monday don't exist in the lyrics of the song.
Yeah,
But they tried to say it's not about Ian Curtis, but how could it not slip in there? I mean,
yeah.
for
I
people
don't.
who don't
I think
know,
something.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I well.
well, Joy Division was the band that came first, and then the lead singer
Mhm.
Ian Curtis committed suicide, and then the rest of the members plus one new one founded New Order. So it's hard not to think that Ian Curtis is going to be in a lot of their lyrics.
Yeah, you can't experience something like that and not have it impact you personally, and then obviously artistically. And I
Yeah.
think that goes into the title as well. Let's finish up the lyrics and we'll get to it.
Okay.
And I thought I was mistaken, and I thought I heard you speak. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me, how should I feel? So he's doubting himself now. I thought I was mistaken, and I thought I heard you speak.
Yeah.
Like, his lover might not have said anything at all, but he's just so attuned to it. Just like, I'm supposed to. I thought
Yeah.
I was mistaken. Like, I was wrong already. Like, he doesn't even know if he or she has said anything yet. And he's already starting off with the assumption, like, I must be wrong.
Yeah. He's really in his head. He's really in his own
Yeah.
head.
Yeah. He's spinning it. Now I stand here waiting. I told you to leave me while I walk down to the beach. Tell me, how does it feel when your heart grows cold?
Grows cold, grows cold.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's not until the very end, like the rest of the lyrics, sort of like the way that I interpret it as a very sort of like almost like a happy love song until you get to the very end, and then it's absolutely unmistakable. Tell me, how does it feel when your heart grows cold?
Yeah,
But even that has a double meaning, because so many times in this song he's begging his lover, whoever he's speaking to tell him exactly how he feels. So is he saying like, your heart has grown cold and I want to know what that feels like, or is he begging to have his heart turned cold?
oh, that's what I love
It's
about
like in,
this song. I love poetry and lyrics like this that really just puts it in the hands of the listener. Like we're vague on purpose so you can make the song whatever you want it to be. Cut it with your own experience and what you're going through in your own life, and enjoy. Have yourself a time with it.
exactly. And you can, it doesn't have to be, it's not like you have to like decide for yourself and that's what this song is going to be like for you. Like it can be there whatever mood that you're in. It can be both. It can be a loving song to you, it can be a manipulative song to you, it can be a vengeance song, whatever you need in a moment.
Yeah.
And Blue Monday's there for you.
If you're addicted to drugs, I can read this entire lyric and thinking he's being metaphoric about drugs. I can read this entire song and think about someone who is in a bad relationship with someone who's controlling and cold, like a sociopath. And then I can read it the way you're hearing it, of kind of the romance in it and a love song. Like this song is so open to all of that, which I think is a great song.
Yeah. And I do absolutely believe that it's heavily influenced by Ian Curtis, because he committed suicide the day before they were supposed to leave for an American tour. And that was something that obviously, if a British band is coming to tour America, then they've got a little bit of their label money behind them. They've got industry people who are just like, oh no, we really think that you have a chance to break pretty big in America.
Yeah.
If they're coming over for an actual tour, then it's a staging area. It's not like, five guys put the money together and just like, okay, we're going to go do this. It's not like a get in the van thing.
Right.
It's a proper organization. And he killed himself right before he was going to do that, which just, it hadn't occurred to me. But we were talking earlier about what it's like to be nervous before podcasting or before performing stand-up. And you and I both talked about how we get that tight feeling in our guts, and we just ask, like, why do we do this?
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Why are we putting ourselves through this? Like, what do we get out of it? What do we need? It's almost like you hate the neediness within you that you have to get out there and perform, but you also feel like you can't live without it. I hate that this is just occurring to me, but I wonder if Ian Curtis killed himself because he was experiencing that feeling very, very intensely.
Yeah, Ian had he had his own issues, if you watch his performances and the weird way he dances. I think he had like some form of epilepsy, or like he was having actual seizures, and like people emulated the spazzy way he danced, but he had seizures. And he had some mental issues, and he probably had some severe anxiety, and it happens, people just can't talk about it, and they're like, you know what, I'm just not going to do this, and I can't explain to you why.
But apparently that was a Sunday that he hung himself on, a Sunday. So Monday follows Sunday.
So okay, we'll talk about the title now, Blue Monday. Two stories in my research. One is the band took the song's name from an illustration in the Kurt Vonnegut book Breakfast of Champions. Stephen Morris was reading it, and one of the illustrations read, "Goodbye Blue Mondays," referring to the invention of the washing machine improving housewives' lives. Which there's so many like multiple meanings on that. You could be like, well, yeah, he was reading that book, but also, Monday everybody was sad because Ian Curtis died. And also, the invention of the washing machine was a technology that made their life easier. This whole song, Blue Monday, was built on new technology. So that could be, a piece of it too.
Yeah, I hadn't put that together. That's absolutely right.
Right.
Whoa.
Also,
I like that one.
I do too. But like I said before, I think it was Bernard Sumner that said the lyrics were not about Ian Curtis, and he wanted to be vague. I was reading about Fats Domino. He had a song called Blue Monday, and it was Monday, and we were all miserable and thought, oh, that's quite apt. So who knows? It could be just an amalgamation of things. All these things could have come together that made Blue Monday a good name for the song.
Yeah. And we'll probably, like, from the research that I did, I don't think there's any way you'll ever discern it, because it seems like the band members themselves are not heated, but they're sticking to their story.
Yeah.
Like Morris is sticking with Vonnegut, and Sumner is obviously sticking hard to Fats Domino.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the best things that I ran across putting this together was a quote from one of the Pet Shop Boys, Neil Tennant. This song came out before the Pet Shop Boys had an album out, but they were working on it, like in their basement, and he said he heard Blue Monday, and he goes, it was so much like a song that we were working it called I've Got My Fingers Crossed. That was going to be, like a romantic song from a homosexual point of view. And very, like dance club oriented, like gay dance club oriented. And he said Neil Tennant apparently heard this song, and his immediate reaction was, how do these Mancurian heterosexuals get to this before we did? It's like that artistic jealousy you get, like when you hear a really good joke and your first reaction is fuck.
How did I not write that? Yes.
Yeah.
Or I had that same thought and did it before I could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how dare you?
Yeah, especially when, New Order did not invent this new electronic synthesizer music. It was going on, and it was going on already, especially in the gay dance music scene. So whenever like these straight boys come out and just do it the best, I imagine groups like Erasure and the Pet Shop Boys and stuff are just like, God damn, how did you get that? It's like when a really good looking person is super funny, where you're like, who taught you how to do that? Like, God damn, that's not how this works.
I totally prejudge good looking people, because I think that they must have had like so much attention in their lives. They're so much easier that you just have to be an asshole.
Yeah, I know.
It's a horrible way for it to warp to have in my mind, but it's there.
Okay, there's so many things in my notes, and I didn't take the time to really organize it the way I wanted it to come out. So we're just gonna flip-flop our way through this.
Let it all out. Open the geyser.
I know. Okay, what's the first part? First of all, let's say that Blue Monday, for again people who live in a weird age range where they're too old or way too young, don't know that this was the best-selling 12-inch single of all time in Britain. It's also one of the longest charting singles ever at 7 minutes and 25 or 29 seconds. The band New Order was formed by the members of Joy Division, which we already mentioned, and most people know Joy Division by their hit song Love Will Tear Us Apart. And I like the way Bernard Sumner says Blue Monday is like the opposite of Love Will Tear Us Apart. And he says, I think Love Will Tear Us Apart connects people because of the emotional content of the song, but Blue Monday connects with people because of the startling lack of emotional content within the song. Which we just went through the lyrics and we think it's quite emotional, but to be honest, when you hear Blue Monday, this song is so not about the lyrics. It's always been about the technology explosion of all the different methods of technology that went into creating the sound. And so I think that's what he means about the lack of emotional content. Like when you hear the song, you just want to dance.
Yeah. It's a booty shaking.
Yeah.
It's a romp. It's a romper. But it's like, I remember the first time I started, like I heard music like this in a club. It was called Power Tools.
Yeah.
So I think it might have been a gay club.
No, not always. It may have had a gay night. No, Go ahead.
I was like 16 or 17, and I don't know if it was an all ages night or what, or how I got in, but I do remember being an absolute wallflower because I had no idea what to do or how to behave or how to talk to anybody. I was with one friend who was just a social butterfly. Like he just went out and just started working the room. And like, I don't know how to do that. So I was by myself. But then they played Love Will Tear Us Apart, and all the goth kids just flocked to the dance floor. And they were older than me. I'm calling them kids, but they were probably 25, maybe even older. I don't even know. All I know is that I was intimidated by them, but I was also like, it was the first time I remember being like out and seeing something and going, oh, there's a place for people like me. Like this is what it is, you know. I've always thought that goth is like the soft kids way of looking hard. You know what I mean? Like you put the vampire fangs in and you dress all in black and maybe they'll leave you alone. Like that's the way I've always thought of it. And then like to see everybody in their comfort zone is just like, oh no, there's a joy to this as well. Like there's certainly a thing to.
Right. And it's so weird the way it was perceived in America versus the UK. Like, I don't think at the time in Manchester, the people going to the hacienda and listening to these bands would consider themselves goth. That's
no.
And I never, even though the music I listened to, a lot of people would consider goth, I never considered myself goth. I would get offended by that. I was like, it's new wave. I do not worship vampires. I don't know what this goth thing is. I understand that those people also like my music, but I was like, this is not goth to me. But I do not know of a goth person who does not love Joy Division.
No, you can't not.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, and this is really weird to me to think of. Do you know where the name Joy Division comes from?
Yes, unfortunately, I do.
Good God Almighty!
Yeah,
Holy
they took
crap.
some heat for that.
Yeah, I had to research that a couple of different. I was like, "There's no way." No, it is. Apparently, it's true. Joy Division was the area of the concentration camp where the Nazis kept prostitutes.
And trying to breed like what they considered like the perfect like Aryan offspring, right? I thought that was part of it.
Yeah, I think that's probably what, this is going to get real dark, but I think that's probably what they were telling themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how boys are. Like these were guys who had complete license to treat people however the hell they wanted to. And you know what men are going to want to do.
They talk about
what it is.
So they talk about this in, first of all, everyone who likes this already, if you haven't already watched the movie 24-Hour Party People, it's a must. And so it talks about the whole story of Tony Wilson and their label Factory Records and him working with Joy Division and then New Order and then opening up a couple of clubs and then the demise of the clubs in Manchester. And there's a scene where they're in the car talking about naming the band Joy Division, and they're just kind of being like, is this like the best idea? And they get a lot of heat from it from news reporters. They were not Nazis. They were not racist. It's just that thing that you love being dark because you can at that age. But they actually got into a big fight during one of their shows because a lot of these like Nazis started showing up and throwing up, you know, the little Hitler hand salute and stuff. And then they ended up the show. I think Ian Curtis ended up having one of his seizures, and then all hell broke loose. And one of the other band members, like, you know, got into a fight with these Nazis because, I mean, they had to have known this was going to happen, but they didn't like it.
Yeah,
that's not what we're about.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was like sort of common knowledge. I didn't realize that was a public thing. I thought it was just a private. Like, 'cause I figured that you know, like Joy Division is just such a fun coupling of words.
That's what he says in the car. He's like, but it's got the word joy in it.
Yeah, like even when I found out how it was named, I just figured just like, well, they must have been reading a history book or something like that. That just came across those two words and went, that's freaking great together.
Yeah.
Like, obviously that's what we're going to call it. It's unfortunate it's coming from there, but that's what I want to do.
Right.
I didn't think of it as any kind of like Nazi association or anything like that.
It's unfortunate, but I think a lot of people let it go. I think like most people do let it go because they knew once you listen to their songs, you realize this isn't a racist or Nazi band. So I think people just kind of got it and let it go.
Yeah, no, it's just too much fun. One of my other favorite quotes in a documentary that I watched was one of the band members said, you could make Blue Monday in 5 minutes on a laptop today. And like it took them like a month because they were working with like, did you see some of the machines and things that they were using to put, because it sounds so hyper futuristic and we're sort of used to, you just program this and you play it on the keyboard and it's easy. Like there's nothing easy about this for them at all.
In fact, I'm going to read from my paper specifically. This goes out to the people who listen to our podcast that are tech junkies and music junkies and understand how you make music in this way, because like you said, they laugh about it with the internet and laptops now that you could just throw the song together, but it was so technologically complicated the way they did it back in 1983. So I'm just going to read this from Bernard Sumner. So this is the process that they did for the song. He said, I built this sequencer from an electronics kit. We programmed everything in step time using binary digital readouts. I don't even know what that means. He says it was complicated. We could drive a synthesizer through it, but we couldn't hook it up to anything. So Steve had bought a drum machine, but we couldn't get the sequencer to talk to it. So through their producer, Martin Hannett, they had gotten to know this scientist called Martin Usher. So he took the sequencer and drum machine to him, and he designed a circuit that could make them speak to each other. So they actually had to go to a scientist, like create something to make these two machines speak to each other.
Yeah.
So he says the day we wrote it was the day we brought the circuit in, hooked it all up, and pressed go on the drum machine. And then the synthesizer started chattering away, and somehow it all worked. And their manager, Rob, thought it was witchcraft. He's like,
Yeah.
he really did. He said that sounds weird in the age of the internet, but he really thought that it worked just by magic. Like he couldn't.
Yeah, it's either witchcraft or the beginning of a Rick and Morty episode. Like, we need a device that'll make these machines talk to each other.
Yes, which is so fun to listen to now, but they were really the pioneers of putting a lot of this stuff together, because we know what happened after that. You get Depeche Mode, you get Erasure, you get all these bands who didn't have a drummer and relied on a drum machine, and everything was electronic.
They were literally like splicing tapes together by hand, like literally like snipping them with scissors and sellotaping them together, and that's how is sequenced it the right word, but that's how they ran everything together. They literally had like a reel-to-reel and a spool that stretched the entire studio, they said, as they're literally painstakingly putting the whole damn thing together.
Yeah. Did you read about the flatulence thing?
Yeah, I did.
So the keyboardist Jillian Gilbert told the story that you just told, like how they had to painstakingly literally tape all this stuff together. And she had the sequence all written down on loads of paper, taped together, like a huge knitting pattern, but she accidentally left one note out, which skewed the whole melody. She said, we bought ourselves an emulator one, an early sampler, and she used it to add snatches of choir-like voices from Kraftwerk's album Radioactivity, as well as some thunder. But the only reason they knew how to use that emulator one really well is because Bernard and Stephen had spent hours using it to record farts and sneezes. Which is
just
so
the
funny.
most English schoolboy thing you could possibly imagine. Like, that is literally Ferris Bueller shit.
And they're probably just high and dying laughing, but it taught them how to use the technology really well.
God. Play that back, man. No.
I'm like, I just imagine like funny boys going around like, all right, cough into it. All right, I'm gonna sneeze into it. All right, I'm gonna pull down my pants. I'm gonna fart into it.
I was reading so their New Order is going to go perform this song on Top of the Pops, and I guess Top of the Pops had a rule at the time that they were going to play like the backing tracks, and you were only allowed to sort of like mime the performance. And no doubt part of that was to ensure that the performance was going to be good, but also to make sure that there was no unexpected vulgarities or I'm seizing the BBC for my own purposes or anything like that. Right. But New Order insisted on playing it live, which was odd because so much of the way that they perform that song live is performing it through these synthesizers and the backing tracks that they already use. So Jillian was saying that they, like the cameraman was like focused on her hands because that's going to be an exciting shot of her playing the notes. And she's like, I'm not playing notes.
She just
I'm pressing this button. Yeah. I'm pressing this button. I'm going to put this disc thing in here, this cartridge over there.
Yeah, they said it was a disaster.
Yeah.
They said it was a disaster, but it made them laugh really hard because the cameramen were freaking out like, there's nothing happening. She's not playing her instruments.
But they also, like, I'm sure they wanted to get away from like the posing with the guitar or the climbing the Marshall stacks or any of that sort of like goofball stuff that they said, like, no, we're doing the music stuff.
Yeah.
the music that matters to us, not the poses or even the costumes. Like they're saying that they used to like laugh at the other groups on Top of the Pops,
Yeah.
which is something that I love talking about music rivalries. Like I like it when like where does it come like because I see so much of musicians as being like incredibly accomplished or incredibly cool in their own way, and you forget that they're sitting backstage with each other going, man, fuck that
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny to me. I love people who love to break boundaries like this, because like you and I were saying, we would get so nervous before going on stage. Like I would be one of these people, like just rehearse it, go out there and lip sync. I don't care. Let's just get it right. Where they're like, nah, this could go horribly wrong. We're just going to do it anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna do it our way, for God's sake.
So we have to talk about the inspirations and the technical makings, the way they Frankenstein the song together, sampling 4 major other songs. Before I get into this, I'm going to tell the listeners, if you're really into this, since we're not allowed to play music on our podcast, go to not Twitter, go to YouTube there and look up, and I'll put this in the show notes too. It's called Songs That Changed Music, New Order, Blue Monday. And they go through all 4 of these songs, and then they'll play you the original clip and then New Order's clip, so you can see them, side by side. So the first song, the major bass line they pulled from a Donna Summer song called Our Love. And when you hear it, you're like, oh, there it is. I can hear it. That's New Order. And then there's another song called Dirty Talk by Klein and MBO. And it's a song that they heard at the Hacienda. And I think I explained earlier, the Hacienda was a nightclub largely financed by New Order's record label, Factory Records, and the band, as well as the label boss, Tony Wilson. Go watch 24-Hour Party People. You understand all that. And then they talk about Kraftwerk a lot. So Ian Curtis was a huge fan of Kraftwerk, and they were doing a lot of this electrical, like a synthesized sound. And so they took a song called Uranium from Kraftwerk and put it into Blue Monday. And then last, and this was my favorite, bassist Peter Hook took the bass line from Ennio Morricone's soundtrack from a Clint Eastwood, his 1965 movie For a Few Dollars More. And it's very spaghetti Western cowboy. It's almost like another one of his songs where it's like, I'm doing a bad job. Anyway, it's when you go hear it's the dun 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 dun. It basically comes almost straight forward from that Clint Eastwood movie soundtrack. So those 4 things they Frankenstein together to make Blue Monday, and I knew none of this, and it blew my mind hearing all 4 of those separately.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it at all. When I read that Ennio Morricone was one of the influences, I went back and listened to the song. Like, okay, yeah, it's there. Like, but it would have taken that documentary to point it out. Like, if I just read the article, I don't hear it. Like, it must be it's deep in the mix, or it's musicology that's beyond me.
Right.
It's definitely there.
Well, I don't think I have anything else on Blue Monday other than I danced to this song all day long today, preparing for this episode.
I like that it's such a joyful song, but it can be like we were talking about it earlier, but it goes in both directions. Like it's joyful and loving, or it can be very, very dark and gloomy. And you wonder like what would it sound like in Ian Curtis's voice? I know it's something that people have been asking for ever since the song came out. And would he have made it darker? Would he have made it a little bit uglier?
I think he would have left the music as it is because it's so good, and I think he would have liked it. I think just his voice alone would have brought like just a deeper level of darkness to it. I really wish I could hear it in his voice.
I really love it because I was thinking about how this song, like this could be a lover that you've met that night, or it could be somebody that you've been with for a decade or 20 years, and it would be the same song. Like it works both ways, because there's that moment, like when you've been with somebody for a long time, like you're getting to know them, but you're also like you're hiding the things that you don't like about yourself, but eventually they're going to find them. Like, I wonder if it's that sort of thing, it's that weird moment where it's like the incurable you meets the incurable me. And now it's time for our first date. It's like, oh shit, that's not going to be at Dave and Buster's. No, probably not.
It's going to be at the Hacienda.
Yes, it is. I really like this song. I know I say this quite often on this show, but this was my favorite week of rehearse because New Order has always been one of my favorite bands, but I've never I've never had a New Order T-shirt. I've never thought like, oh, I wish that I can't wait for them to get back together. I got to go see that show. I've always been like, oh, I really like that song. I really like that song.
Yeah.
But this is like the first time that I've just like wrapped myself up in New Order for a week. And I was just like, this is fantastic. Like I just love it. I love every minute of it. I want to live in that chord change that opens up Regret.
Oh God, it's so good. And yeah, you're right. New Order, out of all of my teenage years and all of my years dancing at Numbers, I've never proclaimed New Order to be like in my top 5 bands. But then I'm like, then why is every time I hear any of their songs, I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite songs. I'm like, Dianne, they are one of your favorite bands. They don't miss.
They never do.
I will say this song made me, I try not to think about all the things we're missing out during this quarantine and pandemic, but I was like, the first thing I'm going to do once we're allowed and the doors open again and I feel safe is go dance at Numbers. This made me miss dancing so much. I'm going to have to build back the stamina for it because I've done nothing but sit around for the last year, but it got me hyped to go dance again.
You'll be all right. The stamina comes back pretty quickly.
I hope so.
I'm getting more and more used to I've been working closing shifts lately. And I'm getting more and more used to 4:00 in the morning. It's gradually, it's taken a couple of weeks, but
oh, you're back at it.
I'm almost back to being 100% nocturnal now. We're getting there. I don't think it's a good thing.
What time did you wake up today?
Oh, I was up early today.
Okay.
I had a quiet night, so I was up by 9.
Okay. All right, that's not bad. I usually get so annoyed by hearing my comedian friends who don't have kids, like how late they're allowed to sleep in. I'm like, dang it. It's like 6:30 a.m. for me every day.
I take advantage of it sometimes, but I try not to. I like to be up by 9 or 10. I don't want even if I'm home like super late, if 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm still setting the alarm for 11 because I hate the feeling of wasting the whole day. And it's also weird, like you get off like the biorhythm of everybody else around you. It's like they can sense it, Like if you wake up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon and then you like your first conversation with somebody who's been up all day, you're at a disadvantage. You're just coming out of the fog and they've been on their shit for hours now.
Right. They're ready for a nap and you just got up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a good place to insert our 6 Degrees of Tommy Stinson with Jeremy Essig. Let's see how the genius Jeremy Essig has tied the bassist of The Replacements to New Order.
Hey friends, this week we're going to take a different path than usual to connect to New Order from Tommy Stinson. We're going to use live music instead of our normal method of shared musicians, since the most straightforward connection is through New Order guitarist Bernard Sumner, who played with Johnny Marr in the group Electronic, as well as Blur bassist Alex James in the band Bad Lieutenant. And since in previous episodes we've already focused on both the Smiths and Blur, I thought it would be more interesting to focus on a show that was attended to by Sumner's former New Order bandmate Peter Cook in June of 1976. That show would be the Sex Pistols at Manchester's Free Trade Hall. Now, some will tell you that the influence of the Sex Pistols has been overstated, that the band was a derivative mashup of stolen styles, that perhaps they could even be considered just a snotty boy band. Yes, some would say that. But even with that in mind, it would be hard to overstate the influence this one night, this one group of shows in Manchester would have on the next 30 years of music. In the audience that night, along with Cook, were his future Joy Division bandmate Ian Curtis, Morrissey, Howard Devoto and Pete Shelley, Billy Duffy, and Marky Smith. So, in what is an estimated audience of only 40 people that evening, that one night led to the formation of the Smiths, the Buzzcocks, the Cult, and the Fall. Even Simply Red singer Mick Hucknall was in the audience, and I forgot to mention it because I tend to mix them up with UB40 for some reason. So how does that night lead to not just the formation of all these bands, but also the bands they would influence over the years? And how does that connect to Tommy Stinson? Well, most directly through Billy Duffy, who went on to form the Cult, a band that would eventually feature drummer Matt Sorum, who would appear in an incarnation of Guns N' Roses, as would Tommy Stinson. So this week we went from New Order through a legendary Sex Pistols show to the Cult to Guns N' Roses to Tommy Stinson. Back to Dianne and Ben.
And we're back, and I'm sure that was awesome, as usual. Thank you, Jeremy.
How does he do it?
How does he do it? How does he do it?
He do it?
All right, our Dressed Up Like a Douche this week comes from Bart Stewart. The song Rocket Man by Elton John. The actual lyric is Rocket Man burning out his fuse up here alone. Bart heard, I'm a rocket man, burning up the trees on every lawn. All right, Bart.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Rocket Man setting fire to the world around him.
Sounds fun. All right, next week. I'm excited about next week. We will be joined by comedian Dale Cheeseman. Haven't seen Dale in a while. It's a Patreon vote week, and they will be voting on 3 songs by Dale's all-time favorite band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's a huge fan, and he chose 3 songs from their Stadium Arcadium album. So the 3 songs to be voted are 1, Wet Sand, 2, Storm in a Teacup, and 3, Make You Feel Better. And I think Make You Feel Better is the only song that I know of those 3. So Dale's going to make me do some research. Do you know those?
I don't know that I do. Obviously, I know the Red Hots, but I don't know that I those songs off the top of my head. Quick question. We're doing the Red Hot Chili Peppers, so shirts on or off next week?
I'm going to keep mine on. That's up to you.
Okay.
What you want to do. I will put a sock on my dick, though. All right, Ben, that's all I got. I think that was a good episode. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Vogue.